Today's division of decimals, which is 6.6 in our textbook. Alright, first of all I just want to go over some vocabulary that you should know, but I just wanted to clarify what each one of these means, because when I use it in the explanations I need you to be clear as to what it is. So the divisor in a division problem is the number that's doing the dividing, okay? So this number here on the outside, or it's actually the second number, so it's the number that's the one that is doing the dividing. The dividend is the number being divided, okay? So the number that goes inside here in the division problem, or it's the first number that appears in a division problem if it's written like this. The quotient is the answer when you divide, okay? So the answer when you use a division problem is called the quotient. It's called the product when you multiply. So it's only when you're dividing that you actually say the answer is the quotient. So it's only for a division problem. So please write those down and make sure that you understand the differences. Alrighty, we're going to talk about division of decimals by whole numbers first of all. 2 steps. So the first step is one that I always like. Complete the division as you would normally with whole numbers. So you just do the division like you've been taught to do it. Then the next step is when you get the answer, you need to place the decimal point directly above where the decimal point was in the dividend, okay? So we're not counting the number of places or doing anything like that. We're just putting it directly above the decimal point. So it's a little bit different than other problems. Alright, so give you an example here. Division of decimals by whole numbers. So we've got 60.524 divided by 4. Alright, so we need to put the 4 here because that's the number that is dividing into 60.524. Alright, so we're just going to do this as a normal division problem, first of all. So 4 into 6 will only go once with 2 left over. I'm going to use short division. 4 5s are 20. I would probably put the decimal point now so that I remember. So when I get to it, I bring the decimal point above where it is in the dividend. And then 4 into 5 is 1 with 1 left over. 4 3s are 12. And then 4 will go into itself once. So the answer is 15.131. So remember we're doing our therefore. 15.131 is the answer. You need to make the answer clear. Right, now the division of decimals by other decimals. So the whole number is pretty easy. But when you're dividing by other decimals, there is a couple of extra steps and things that you really need to get right so that you can do this successfully. Okay, so with division, we don't want to divide by a decimal number. Okay, so we never want the divisor to be a decimal number. It doesn't matter about the dividend. We can have that as a decimal number, which we've seen in the previous one. But we never want the divisor to be a decimal number. So the first step is to change the divisor into a whole number by moving the decimal place to the right, the number of places just to get it out of being a whole number. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a minute. So we want to move the decimal place to the right, the number of decimal places it takes to make it a whole number. And then step 2 is to move the decimal place in the dividend. So in the other number, whatever you do to the divisor, you have to do to the dividend, okay, to make it so that it's even. Otherwise, you're just dividing by different numbers. They aren't the same value. Alright, so you need to move the decimal place in the dividend the same number of places that you moved it in the divisor. So a bit along the lines of when we do fractions, you know, what you do to the top, you must do at the bottom. So what we do to the divisor, we must do to the dividend. You need to remember that. Now I'm going to do a couple of these examples. You can just write one of these examples down. You don't have to write both of them down. Alright, so the first step is to move the decimal place to the right. The number of, even though we're doing a division And you know, we say divide left, but to do this, to make it so that it's a whole number, we're going to actually go right, okay? So I want to move it 2 decimal places to make it a whole number. So that'll make it 2, but then I need to move this, the dividend, I need to move this decimal place right 2 places as well. So that means it will be 2456.2 divided by 2. Alright, so therefore I'm going to put this is the divisor and then 2456.2 is the dividend. I might do this in a different colour so we can see it clearly. 2 into 2 goes 1, 2 into 4 is 2, 2 into 5, 2 2s are 4 with 1 left over, 2 8s are 16, then remember we're putting the decimal place above it, 2 into 2 is 1. So therefore it is 1228.1. Alright, just in case you need to see that again. Right, so first step, remembering moving the decimal place to make it a whole number. So we're going to move it right because we need to multiply it. 1, 2, 3. So I need to move it 3 decimal places. So what I do to the divisor, I need to do to the dividend. So I need to move this 3 decimal places. So my decimal place will now move to there. My decimal place will be there. So the number will be 31.52 divided by 2. That makes it a bit easier. So 31.52 divided by 2. 2 into 3 is 1 with 1 left over. 2 into 11, so 2 5s are 10 with 1 left over. Remembering to put our decimal place. 2 7s are 14 with 1 left over, and 2 6s are 12. So therefore the answer is 15.76. Alright, there's one other thing that we need to know when we're working on dividing by decimals. We're also going to divide decimals by multiples of 10. Now we've had a little go at this when we're doing multiplication, so you know a little bit about this already, but this is going to be dividing instead of multiplying. So step 1 is to ignore the zeros in the divisor and perform the division as you would according to the steps for dividing by whole numbers, which was the very first thing we did in this video. Step 2 is when you get the answer, you have to put your decimal point according to the rules of dividing by powers of 10, which we did a couple of videos ago. So we have to put a few different skills together to get this happening. But it is pretty easy once you see it. You'll remember that we did this for multiplication. It's just a couple of different things. Alright, so remember we're dividing left, so DL, moving the decimal place to the left, the same number of zeros. Alrighty, this is the example here. So remember we're not going to worry about the zeros yet. We're just dividing. So we're just going to divide by 8. So 67.04 divided by 8. So 8 into 6, well we can't do that. So it has to be 8 into 67. 8 8s are 64 with 3 left over. And don't forget, nearly forgot, put the decimal place. 8 into 30, 3 8s are 24 with 6 left over, and 8 8s are 64. Alright, so it's 8.38, but we're not finished yet because we still have these zeros we haven't done anything with. So we need to divide 8.38 by 1000, which means basically that we're just moving the decimal point to the left. Remember, divide left, so we're moving the decimal point to the left 3 places. Now I haven't really left enough room there, so I'm going to have to rub it out and do it a bit smaller, so it'll be 8.38. Divided by 1,000. So now I'm going to move this to the left. 1, 2, 3. And that's where my decimal place will be, remembering to put the zeros in. So my answer will be 0.00838. And that's my answer. Okay, so good luck. Got to put a lot of skills together for this one, so hopefully you refer back to your notes and refer also back to the video if you have any questions.